to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotello Esquire, Mike Lano, and Evan Ginzburg. You guys want to introduce our very special and noteworthy guest for tonight?
Absolutely. Not only do we have our co-host, the distinguished Dr. Mike Lano, photographer to the stars, but we also have actor, producer, Solomon Chertok, and he's a great supporter of the arts, and also noted radio host, actor Steve Ludwig, who is one of the most noted authorities on the Beatles on this planet. There you go.
Wait,
a young Ringo Starr.
Hey, wasn't I forget what is Ludwig in instruments? Wasn't that the drumsticks that Ringo used, or what was the Ludwig?
Yeah, well, that was the drum set, the whole drum set. I got myself a replica drum head. It's usually hanging on the wall, but I wanted you guys to see it tonight, so there you go. Yeah, Ludwig drums.
And both these gentlemen are here supporting their live action web series that they're voice actors on, Titus. So why don't we start with that? Solomon, tell us about Titus.
Titus happens to be the from the brainwork of Delmar Burkett, who actually back in 2011 made a live action version of Titus for about 2 seasons, and he wasn't really fully satisfied with it because there was a lot he could not do in the live action version. So he was developing it for a couple of years, and basically he was like, what about doing it animated? And that's where this whole thing is, where we are now, where the story is these demon spirits have arisen and they're trying to awaken their leader, Titus. And it's up to 2 guys, Charles and Robert, with the help of a mysterious woman named Jasmine, and also their buddy, the Fixer.
Thank you.
To stop Titus from taking over the world. That's it.
And Steve, how does it feel to be acting and being in a project like this?
You know, it's funny, Evan, because when Solomon got in touch with me and said, Solomon mentioned me to someone at Delmar, and he got in touch with me. Anyway, I sent in my audition tape, my audio audition tape, and I said to myself, I stink. I'm horrible. I mean, I even feel embarrassed sending this in. But Delmar obviously ran out of people, so he said, "Yeah, Steve, you're in."
Oh, come on. Yes.
But
you're too humble.
I don't know about you, Solomon, but what's tough for me, Evan, is that when you get the scripts, you really don't have too much context of what you just kind of say. You read your lines.
Exactly.
You get an idea, but and I'm not in every episode. Solomon is. I think I'm in 4 of the 9 episodes. So
you could be doing the voice for anything from an old man to a rabbit or a 3-headed dragon or an alien from outer space.
I mean, I don't even know what's going on because I don't get the scripts that I'm not a part of. So
right.
I watch it like everybody else when I'm not the parts I'm not in. But it's great. It's fantastic. Solomon's been a big help, and Delmar Burkett, the creator, is like the greatest guy, right, Solomon?
Absolutely. And believe it or not, even I don't know what's going to happen in the series. I just get the script, but the one thing he does that a lot of animators don't do, he gives us the storyboards. So this way we can visually see what the action is going to be like.
Yeah. And
to me, this is actually a live version. It's like a comic book come to life, literally, because you do see when people are talking. If like in comic books, they have the dialogue bubble, that white
thought balloon.
Yeah. You see the dialogue right there. So as we're talking, you see the words. So if you can't really understand what we're saying, it's like almost like closed captioning in a sense, but it feels just like the comic book. And it's mixed in with the animation of the action, which is really amazing. And like the way Delmar has plotted out this thing, nobody from the cast really knows what's going to happen from episode to episode. Like me and Steve, we speculate what's going to happen next. And half the time we are wrong.
Right.
Which is kind of the fun about it. But then again, to me, this series kind of goes back to those old-fashioned 1940s serials you know, that where they always end on a cliffhanger, or like the 66 Batman show where tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Or even most recently the 24 series with Kiefer Sutherland, where it always would end on a cliffhanger where what will happen to Jack Bauer? How can he get out of this mess? And that's kind of like what Delmar has put together here in this wonderful series, and already it's won an award. We're actually an award-winning series. It was named Best Animated Web Series pilot episode for the first episode at the New Jersey Film Awards 2020. So we actually started the new year. We didn't find out about this till January 1st when one of our episodes came online, and Delmar said, oh, by the way, we're nominated and the award ceremony is later tonight. So we were all like, oh yeah, we're nominated. And they're like, we won. It's like Daniel Bryan. Yes. It happened.
You know, Russ, when you said, I'm sorry, Solomon.
I know, we just happened so fast that even Steve could tell you. We were like, wow, this is happening so fast we couldn't comprehend what was happening.
Well, you know, you were talking about the cartoon bubbles, you know, with the writing in it, Russ, before. I don't know, Sal, but I still think that Delmar should have done this in English. This way we wouldn't have need the... I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
Just kidding, guys.
So, Solomon, did you ever read comics as a kid? If so, what sort of comics inspired you?
Superman, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, the whole shabeel, you know, like if it's Marvel, DC, you know, even later where Alan Moore came with his whole big thing where you had Watchmen, and later you had Sin City with, what's his name?
Frank Miller.
Thank you. I was going to say Dark Knight.
Good one, Russ.
Oh, I've been a big comic book fan for a long time. In fact, if you wanted to talk about a bucket list item of mine, which, you know, everybody has those. One of mine is to be a cartoon voice at some point in time, somewhere down the line. So I hope I can somehow pass an audition for you guys and find my way to be part of that web series, because I watched some of it and it's very intriguing and it's very different than what you'd see on the web. I don't want to give any spoilers away. So
there's a second season coming up, Russ.
Fantastic.
Buddy. I'm sorry, I'm calling you Russ. Sorry, buddy.
Either way, I'm good. It says it on the display there. So you know, the secret's been out for quite a while. So
let me just add that many times today the major television networks, HBO, Showtime, they're looking at web series for content. A lot of the hot series started as web series. So you never know when you get your hand in something that's quality, that's different, that's special. You never know how far you could take it. And you know, I'm hoping for you guys that you know, you have a good run with this and you know, it moves to bigger and better things, because it's quite possible that it can. And I mean, you know, look, the biggest movies today are comic book based and sci-fi based. Yeah, so you know, you might have your hand in the right thing, and you know, take it as far as you could take it. It's you know, it's exciting. It's exciting. I do a little acting on a web series called Kings of the Ring, which is a wrestling drama. So it's a similar experience. I get like a piece of a script with my dialogue. I have no idea what's going on the rest of the episode, and there'll be like little notes like sarcastic, angry, whatever, and you're acting. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Evan, how do you get that? How do I see that? Am I putting you on the spot?
It's online. Kings of the Ring. Yeah.
Kings of the Ring. Okay.
Kings of the Ring. Yeah. Very.
The producer was on our show as one of our guests.
Steve Ludwig. Yeah. Interesting guy. Yeah. So
it
it's
must
basically
have been the one show I missed.
Okay. It's an old school, you know, wrestling promotion, like back in the day, back in the 80s, and he recreates it with all the backstage drama.
All our past episodes are on YouTube, so it's no excuse. Go back and watch it. You know, we always love it.
I have no excuse, buddy.
So the one thing we all have in common is pro wrestling, and I'm going to put Solomon on the spot. I notice on your wall there you have a dreidel and a menorah, and I'm Jewish. What did you think of Brian Kendrick's comments from years ago that broke this week?
Oi, Gewalt.
Yes.
Spilkus in the points.
Yeah.
I'll give you yet another topic. The peanut is neither a pea nor a nut. Discuss.
Discuss. From Coffee Talk.
Exactly.
Yes, I remember that. But really, what are your thoughts on that? Or you don't want to comment?
I don't want to comment.
Well, I'll comment then. I lost 40 relatives in the Holocaust, 40 that I never got to meet. And when what he was quoted as saying was that only quote unquote only 250,000 people died, not millions. Yeah. And to me, one, it's just ignorance. But two, it's like, where does this come from that you would make a statement like this?
You know what, Evan? Not only that, even, and I know millions die, but even 250,000, that has a ripple effect on the family, the friends.
Of course.
It ruins millions and millions more of people's lives.
Yeah, let me comment on that. At the World Trade Center, 3,000 people died. They estimate that every person on average has 33 friends, okay? On average. So those 3,000 people, that affected 100,000 people. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy, okay?
Not to mention family.
Of course.
Right.
My teacher friend's son was killed. How do you deal with that? Steve's a big music guy. I was sitting in a club. Antibalas was playing. They're an Afro pop band. They were the house band for Fela on Broadway. Tremendous band. I'm sitting at their concert. Some guy's at the bar, and he looks depressed. The guy just looks depressed. And he starts talking to me, and he says, we're just bullshitting back and forth. Great band, blah, blah, blah. And then he starts telling me that his dad was a scholar, and he traveled all over the country, all over the world, representing his university. And he said he didn't speak to his dad every day because he was a busy guy, his dad. And, and then for a couple of days, he didn't hear from him. And days later, he found out dad died on 9/11. He didn't even know. Wow. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "What do you do with this anger? Where do you place the anger? The killers are dead. They went down with the plane.
What's the answer?
There's no answer. You just live with it the rest of your life that some lunatic murdered your dad. So, I had 40 relatives die, and it's horrendous. And to downplay something like that, the guy downplayed Sandy Hook. Kids died. Yeah. Brian Kendrick downplayed Sandy Hook.
You're kidding. Oh, man.
It's all over the internet.
Just hearing this, because I didn't go online, and he was supposed to have been in the opening match of AEW Friday night. And
I mean, this was 12 years ago, and he apologized profusely.
The Joe Rogan thing, and I was going to ask you, that was in my topic of things, so I'm just going to throw that out. That stupid moron who I've shot a ton of UFC press conferences. He's always up there yelling and screaming at the weigh-ins and all of that. This schmuck gets $100 million. I don't know how many years. Was it a 3-year $100 million or I don't? It can't be.
He only got $90 million for this show
on Spotify. So now, after the whole mess with the COVID idiocy coming out of his mouth and bringing on all these other idiots and all that crap, the chlorhexidrin or whatever the Trump medication was that has absolutely no positive effect on COVID, nothing. The N-word stuff. And so now a lot of podcasters, not just all these musicians, there's already about 15 musicians of name, the rest of Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, all 4 of them, and Joni Mitchell, India Irie, who revealed all the N-word stuff that this guy said repeatedly on that same podcast, I guess on Spotify. He needs to be kicked off.
Mike, I think they took down 70 of his shows already off of Spotify.
Yeah, but
that had questionable content. but he's
all
still
of
up.
this stuff. Is this schmuck? Yeah, the schmuck is still on there. I think he needs to go. You know, it's like if everybody else, he can't sorry my way out of it type bullshit.
Well, the forced, feigned public apology when you're caught is kind of wearisome in general. You know, if you really felt
Sorry,
bad
I got
about it,
caught.
yeah,
That's
if you really
general.
felt bad about it, you would have said it years ago. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, he's a nut job, and I've tried listening to that thing in the past. It's pretty horrific, and I love MMA, and it's not good. I have another. Speaking of horrors, watching, you know, because Howard Hessman passed away, who was a great actor, and I'm watching WKRP. They had like a marathon, and I go, I don't remember this crazy thing of this normal light brown hair color on top, and then from about the ears down, it was dyed black, and it looked like a Frankenstein monster. Do you guys remember this?
no, I don't remember that.
I always think of him as a blonde. Yeah, like a dirty blonde.
What a horror show. He looks ridiculous. And then you have Lonnie Anderson with, my wife looks at that and she goes, that's got to have been a wig. And I go, no, she was married to Burt Reynolds. She went out in public in the 70s and early 80s like that with that hair that was, it looked like anyone's seen Beach Blanket Babylon in San Francisco with the oversized, gigantic Tina Turner hair, or the B-52s, those talented ladies. They just ramp it up.
Beehives, yeah.
Yeah,
I was a Bailey Quarters guy, so don't throw me into all this. I had a TV crush on Bailey Quarters.
Russian wrestler who's excellent talent. Slamovich, Ivana Slamovich, they bill her from Russia, but she has the Bride of Frankenstein tall hair, and it just reminds me of like Lonnie Anderson's crazy hair I'm watching today on that show. So
Buddy Bailey was my crush. She can't be your crush.
Oh well,
beautiful person.
She was more understated than Lonnie Anderson. Everyone's drawing over Lonnie Anderson.
Love Boat. We'll throw this out there. We're talking 70s TV shows. Watching Love Boat, and Patty Duke is on that thing, and her love interest is Rick Nelson, who's supposed to be this musician with amnesia. But I go, what a beautiful woman Patty Duke was. I loved her as a kid. I had a crush on her in the Patty Duke show in the 60s. I know Solomon's too young. He's probably groaning. But she was gorgeous in that show. Oh, look at that 1978 Patty Duke on the Love Boat. Wow, knockout.
I think Solomon and I are more the Jan Brady types.
Oh, you know who else was on that?
Well, so are we.
The A&E Playboy documentary nobody's brought up yet, the 10-part series. Do we really need that? Leave poor Hugh Hefner's misogynist ass in the grave. But Barbie Benton was on that same Love Boat in interactions with Patty Duke and Rick Nelson.
Mm-hmm. You know what?
She was Hef's main squeeze until he started getting married to multiple women. She was the Hugh Hefner babe of the late 60s, 70s, and probably one of the most beautiful women that ever lived on the planet.
You know what, Mike?
Speaking of Hefner, we you have to see. We need to talk about Bill Cosby on Showtime.
Yeah, I've heard that's great.
Oh my God, 4 hours. They bury that guy, boy. Oh man.
I haven't seen it yet. What went on, Evan?
It's on Showtime.
But you've seen it.
Mal Bell, who I actually know, and we brought him to the show, Ev. I don't know if you'll remember. He lived near me in Oakland, and he's an amazing comic. He went from the great show, I forget which network it was on, that introduced a lot of fantastic people, Ricky Velez, other comics. Then he's had his series on CNN. You know, every year he churns out about 10 episodes where he goes, like he'll go in, black guy amidst a bunch of KKK guys. It's like a Dave Chappelle skit, but he's actually interviewing these KKK guys civilly, which is, you know, frightening. He's a brilliant young guy, and he's the host of this Cosby Show. So, Ev, tell us about it.
Basically, they cover his whole career from his doing stand-up, which was squeaky clean, and he became America's dad. And then they do like a timeline with all the women that accuse him, and they bring them out. They bring out the women one by one, and they go into graphic detail exactly what happened in these, you know, closed doors where he was supposedly mentoring them, and it's brutal, man.
He was mentoring them all right with pills, knockout.
Brutal.
You know,
and they They even show clips on the Tonight Show where he's laughing about Spanish Fly and using it.
Oh no.
You know, I had literally every one of Bill Cosby's comedy albums. I loved him.
Yep.
I thought he was tremendous. And it's the old question.
The chicken heart that ate Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry?
Is the chicken heart, the chicken liver that ate Pittsburgh?
Oh, chicken heart, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
boom. Yep.
Yeah,
But
I mean, he was known for all these classic routines, and now those are all.
But can you separate? I think, you know, Evan, I've heard you speak about this in the past. Can you separate art from private life, personal life?
Well, I'll tell you, recently I'm learning about these legendary actors who were freaks. You know, Charlie Chaplin, they said, was a pedophile. Charlie Chaplin, okay? There's
married that gal. He had to leave the U.S. and go to Europe. Was she 16 or something like that?
I don't know all the details.
Yeah, Mike.
That, you know, then they said some pretty horrible stuff about Kirk Douglas, and it's like, you know, I love these guys, and I'm watching their movies, and you start to think differently about them.
There was no internet then, but there's internet now, so there's still a way to spread the story about them, you know, today, even though there was nothing back then to ruin their reputation.
Let me tell you something very quickly. They did the CBS Sunday Morning, which I urge everybody to look at. It's one of the greatest shows on TV. It's amazing. They did a piece on Peggy Lee, who my wife never cared for. I was always a huge fan of her. Saw her a couple of times.
It was today, right, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing.
I haven't seen
she
it yet.
talks about this horrific childhood where her mom died when she was 3. Dad remarries a bitch who began, you know, was jealous of Peggy and beat the shit out of her and multiple times with a cast iron, you know, with those crock oven things, heavy metal, conking her on the head, and their husband was cheating on her. All of this stuff. That is where a lot of the pain came into genius in her music, like, you know, other artists, creative people.
When they stopped beating her, did you say, "Is that all there is"? No. Oh boy, I'm going straight to hell. I'm sorry.
She would always say, "Oh, what a depressing singer," and I go, "Well, now you can appreciate the fact too." They didn't even touch on the fact that she wrote like pretty much all of the music on her own for Lady and the Tramp, the Disney cartoon, and sang most of the songs in there, and played 5 speaking roles, different dialects, Siamese cats, and the this and the that. And
Mike, most modern wrestling fans are Peggy Lee fans also. There's a direct connection.
Yeah, exactly.
They gotta really love this.
An artist. Okay.
So let's do a little bit of a transition, and that is one of our highest rated shows of 2021 was our memorial show of Melissa Coates, and Solomon wasn't able to be on the show for scheduling reasons. But he was a friend of hers and knew her relatively well. So I'd love to give Solomon a chance to talk a little bit about Melissa, because we do miss her on the show. I didn't know her personally, but I was a fan of her work, and I was a fan of what she did in wrestling, and she's still very much missed by the wrestling community. Solomon, you want to maybe make say a few words about her?
I got to work with, I was actually first introduced to her by Evan at the Gotham Nostalgia Show. You remember that, Evan? Years ago, Carol Garofalo was a show that from that convention. That's where I met you and her, and we exchanged numbers right there.
And Carol Garofalo is a drag king. She dresses up as Meatloaf. She's very talented.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, to show you real quick, if you can see Melissa, can you see her?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's Melissa. And here's another one of Melissa right over here. You can see her.
Yeah.
My connection with her is that I actually worked with her in the movie A Story About Ian, which I was one of the producers of. I also acted in it. And it also had our wonderful Evan Ginzburg in the film as well. And Melissa appeared in the Dean Roderick commercial, which is this fake commercial that appears in the movie. And it was supposed to be an over-the-top commercial, which was supposed to be an homage to those 80s commercials like Time to Make the Donuts, or Where's the Beef? or Crazy Eddie, the prices are insane. So the Roderick commercial was supposed to be this over-the-top commercial because in the movie, it's about this guy named Ian, played by Matthew Dunhu, who is working. He wants to be this Annie Leibovitz type of photographer, and he's stuck working for this wedding bar mitzvah type of photographer named Dean Roderick, and he's having relationship issues with his girlfriend, who he suspects is cheating on her. Plus, he's having a hard time getting his photos shown at photo galleries. And basically, his father, he's kind of embarrassed to ask his father for help, but his father, played wonderfully by Mr. Evan Ginzburg, wants him to basically to shape up that, here, I'm here to help you. All you have to do is, I'm here, reach out. And he's embarrassed to do that. And he's even tempted to cheat on his girlfriend with the wonderful Lauren Francesca, who's in the movie. And in the Dean Roderick commercial, which in the movie it's 40 seconds, but we have an extended version, which is on YouTube, which is, I think, about 3 minutes, 30 seconds. But the thing is, the 40-second version is as good as the 3 minutes, 30-second version. And that one has Melissa in it. It has Dawn Marie from WEECW, Screen Queens Debbie D and Tina Krause are in it. Carol Garofalo is also in it. Filmmaker Phil Snyder is also in it. And basically, they're so over the top as they're promoting. Even I'm in it, as I'm one of his co-workers, Dean Roderick. And basically, we're so over the top that with Melissa, as you can see here, here's the pictures from A Story About Ian. That's the poster. And here is Barry Brown. He plays Dean Roderick. And here is Melissa. There is Carol Garofalo, filmmaker Phil Snyder. And this is when we were filming the Dean Roderick commercial.
Phil Snyder does some interesting work. I know Phil.
He's an award-winning filmmaker. And there's this, wonder if you could see the old guy next to her. Kind of looks like Willie Nelson. And he's a friend of Phil. Now, here's the thing. Basically, we had an outline for the commercial. So the actors kind of had an idea of, okay, what we're going into. So with Melissa, she was going to be a bodybuilder thinking Dean. But then Phil brought his friend, Mr. Willie Nelson over here, this guy over here, who's not an actor, but wanted to be in the commercial that we were shooting. So I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. I'm putting you with Melissa. So I said, Melissa, meet your sugar daddy, rich husband, this Willie Nelson guy. And you're going to thank Dean Roderick for taking these wonderful photos of you, which landed your rich sugar daddy husband. You're going to dance with the guy in the commercial. And not only that, at the end, after you thank him, you lift the guy up in your arms.
Yeah.
And she did that. And she was so like, whatever, that was the one thing about her in terms of comedy, like whatever you wanted her to do, she would do it. And the guy, the Willie Nelson type of guy, he got so into it that every time that Melissa was lifting her up, he was going, woo! And I kid you not, I had to be kicked out of the room several times because I couldn't stop laughing. Like, if I was laughing, Barry Brown, who was shooting it, was telling me, get out, get out, get out. You could hear me cracking up. But Melissa was so wonderful. She understood the comedy vibe to it. And a lot of people, like when we had the Story About Ian party at Gizzy's, Evan, when we premiered that commercial, the extended version, everybody was cheering and clapping and laughing when Melissa was on and lifted the guy up in her arms, that she got such a big ovation. And to me, that's the one thing with Melissa. I wish I could have worked with her more. And I never got a chance to because of her wrestling schedule. Plus, she had a couple other things, and I always felt bad for what happened with her leg. And
plus she lived in Detroit. She lived in Vegas. She wasn't around the corner. Logistically, it was tough. Yeah.
So, I mean, but every time when she was in the city, I would hang out with her, you know, at the hotel, wherever, I think it was on the West Side, you know, and she was very cool. And believe it or not, when on Facebook I posted up, you know, like, I'm sorry to hear about when Melissa passed away. several people said to me, I'm sorry to hear about your girlfriend. And I'm like, what are you talking about? A lot of people thought that I dated Melissa, which never happened, but they thought from the photos that it looked like I was dating her, and
A
even
little white lie couldn't hurt, right? At this point,
Oh,
she's not around to deny it. So,
I
embellish it.
last time I met Melissa was at Legends of the Ring wrestling convention in New Jersey, and she was doing the Super Genie bit with Sabu. Sabu, I mean, like, I'm talking to Melissa. That's the thing. Whenever I saw Melissa, we were like so buddy. Sabu had no clue who I was. He thought I was just some fan, and Melissa's just talking to me about all the little things, what's going on in my life, what's going on in her. Sabu had no clue who I am, and it was like, I took the picture with them, him doing this, and she doing the Super Genie pose. And I was like, gee, you doing your Barbara Eden thing? Come on, Melissa, put some. And I've met Barbara Eden twice, And, but Sabu, I mean, he was a nice guy, but had no clue who I was. I mean, but that was the last time I saw Melissa. But the last time I spoke to her was on Facebook. And she was so happy. It was a couple of months before she passed away. And she was so happy to hear from me. She was like, oh, I'm so happy yet you're alive and that COVID didn't take you from this world yet. So that's Melissa's sense of humor, And but she was really wonderful. And I wish I could have worked with her more than the one time. And I love that people can enjoy, it seems that Dean Roderick commercial lived longer than the movie itself, which is what Barry Brown predicted, because it's on YouTube and it has so many views on it. And everybody loves Melissa.
Since you bring that up, yeah, everybody loved Melissa, man. I never heard a person say a bad word about her. And I've been in touch with her brother, J.R. Coates, and he wants to do various tributes to her. So, we'll all help any way we can. But since Solomon mentioned it, I want to throw this out there. I was watching a movie last night called Rhythm Thief from 1994, a New York independent film. Guys bootlegging music, selling it on the street corners on the Lower East Side. It was shot in 11 days on $11,000. Think about that. That wouldn't be the food budget on the Avengers for a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the whole movie was shot on $11,000. There it is, almost 30 years later, on the Criterion Channel. Being watched by thousands of people. So, what is really success for a project? Solomon is saying, okay, the movie wasn't wildly successful, but it's going to live on. There's Melissa on camera acting. Her family, her friends, her fans, whoever else can enjoy it. I mean, what I'm asking all you guys, what is your definition of success? Because I hear all the time with WWE, they're making crazy money, and I'm like, yeah, but 90% of it is crap. To me, that's not success. What's your guys' take on this?
Well, you
Baby's arm holding an apple.
You can claim all kinds of stuff when you're shedding talent, both on camera and behind the scenes, to prepare for a Disney or a Comcast, NBC, or Universal purchase. You can do anything you want, and they've done that in the past, allegedly, with the numbers. But success is, well, I'll throw it back to you guys. If you're a target audience and your demos are growing and they're giving you approval, with the not just the ratings but critical approval, I would think those are fairly important numerics.
I think if you make something with the sole purpose of making money, then you measure success differently. You just look at the box office or whatever. But I think if you make something that you feel good about and that you achieved your goal, regardless of the money back, that I think is a success. If you did what you wanted to do, then you're successful.
You've been doing Planet Ludwig, and you've been doing your Beatles show for many years. You have friends all around the world. You could probably roll into any major city in any state, any country, and have a friend there. That's a form of success. I know Joe Mandica and the crew in Australia, they love you. And
Yeah, well, I love them too. But I mean, you know, and I'm not saying this because you're here, Evan, but I have my shows because of you. You introduced me to the late Rick Hendrickson, your engineer, and that's how I got started. But it's right, you know, you hear from people even like years later. You know, you hear new comments from YouTube videos that people have seen. Oh, great job! I love the interview, and you know, I hadn't even thought of the interview in years, but yeah, it really makes you feel good. And to me, you know, I was successful in what I set out to do. You know, I hadn't made any money by it, but who cares? I'm a retired teacher on a good pension, and that's you know,
If
that's
you can,
good
if you
enough for
take
me.
something, if you can take something that's on your bucket list and cross it off, you've been successful.
You're right.
That's the
You're
way
right,
I
buddy.
look at it. Is
Yeah.
that, you know, maybe what I did with California Championship Wrestling wasn't something that, you know, made Vince afraid of his livelihood, you know, but I got in the ring. I got body slammed. I got clothesline.
Mhm.
I got, you know, I held up a world championship belt. I managed tag team champions. To me, that's a success. I can cross that off my bucket list, and I don't spend the rest of my life wondering what if, or if something had still, you know, if I hadn't tried it and I hadn't done it, I would spend a whole lifetime regretting not having done it. That would bother me. That would be unsuccessful. But
And
I
buddy,
think
you had people in those seats who had the greatest time watching all those matches too.
they asked me for my
That's a
autograph.
success. Yeah.
They asked me for my autograph. You know, for somebody to care enough about what I did in the ring, to be impressed enough to stay after a show and want me to sign a poster for them was to me worth driving all the way out to the middle of California and getting there at like 2 p.m, staying there till 2 a.m, and then driving back and getting home at about 3:30 or 4 a.m. It was still worth it because it was a bucket list item that I was able to cross off. Solomon, do you feel like some of the stuff you've done is like bucket list items that you can remove off of your bucket list too?
The whole thing with the success and with failures, to me, I view it by one, the passion that you put in, the heart, because there has to be, as they said in Jerry Maguire, all about the heart. And the other thing is, you know, doing right in terms of not screwing over people, doing what you can, and having an impact on people. And with me, I can give 2 examples with me where I've seen that happen a lot. You know, as I mentioned on Steve's show, I created back in 2005 to 2008 a film event called Sundays in the City March Movie Marathon, which went from 2005 to 2008. And that was a reaction because of all the negative problems that I saw with film festivals across the country. And somebody said to me, why don't you make your own and do it your way? How would you fix it? So I did it for the first year in 2005 with a couple other people. We produced it in March, because that was a dead month during that time in March of 2005, where we did 4 Sundays. We did a comedy Sunday, a drama Sunday, an action Sunday, and we did an even a sensual Sunday. And that actually brought the most people, the sensual Sunday. We even had celebrities come there. Now, we didn't have the best promotion. We promoted in newspapers. We promoted in the Village Voice. We promoted on public access talk shows. And we had a lot of people come. We had literally close to 1,000 people come from all the 4 Sundays. And then I did it about a couple more times, one in Brooklyn, one back in Manhattan, and the final one was at the Tribeca Cinemas, as you can see here. It used to be on Varick Street in Manhattan, now it's gone. But it came from a karaoke place all the way to an art gallery, back to a restaurant with a big screen, to a movie theater. And the thing is, every time I did it, it touched people's lives. The filmmakers that screened their movies there, they basically, the looks on their faces, they were able to get a screening in front of an audience, not to mention I always promoted it as a networking opportunity. We're here to help each other, not screw each other. Unfortunately, some of my producing partners had that in mind, where they were thinking of their own interest of deals of what's good for them, not what's good for the event. And with me, I was the good cop. I was the one, this is what it's about, the heart. We're here to help people. And that's where it was successful. And every time when I did it, I heard people saying, thank you for having it, for letting me screen my film. I was able to get a distribution deal. Or I met this actor and I casted him in my next movie. Or I met this singer and I put their songs in my next movie, and vice versa. So basically, I touched their lives. And that's
Solomon, I'm curious, how hard was it to put on a film festival? Not that I ever want to do it, but I imagine that it's extremely challenging.
I'll tell you, it is like doing a movie plus a play plus WrestleMania plus the Academy Awards plus the Super Bowl all mixed into one.
And set on fire, from what a friend of mine told me that once tried to do a film festival. You do all that and you douse it in lighter fluid and light a match.
To show you, this is from like the first year. You know, and this year, this is the late Vinnie Vella over here, who was on The Sopranos, analyzed that. He came the first year, you know, but as you can see, this was at the karaoke place. Here I am. But as from every time that I did it, you know, and this was when I did it here to Christine Marie, our friend Christine Marie, Evan. She performed in 2007. You know, as you can see, the many people. We screened films and stuff, and then it built up to the whatchamacallit, the Tribeca, where, as I could show you here,
Joe Franklin.
Yeah. And he complimented me. He said to me, "How are you pulling this off?" He couldn't believe it. And here, Randy Jones of the Village People.
Yeah, I met him. Nice guy.
Yeah. Like that, I did a film with him. So called The Gentleman, and this is the guys from The Gentleman, Keith Collins, who was in it, and here, Joe Franklin, you know, and she actually was a Miss Staten Island, if I remember correctly. And here's your other friend, Peter Welch.
Yeah.
3 Long Years. I screened that with Randy in it.
Yeah, he used to have Johnny Valiant act in his movies. Peter Welch. Yeah.
It's in it too, you know. Actually, I have a picture of the 3 Long Years, the movie that he here, 3 Long Years.
Yeah, isn't Johnny in that movie?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. People don't realize Johnny Valiant was an actor also, not just a stand-up. Yeah,
she would have come to it, you know. He didn't, but I've had, believe it or not, people from Showtime, Nickelodeon. Comedy Central have all representatives have come to the event. IMDb recognized it as a legitimate film event. And I was going to do it in 2009, but I had to stop it because the problem I had was finding the right producers to do the event with, because they were thinking about themselves and not, you know, what was good for the event. And it got to the point that I was going to do the 2009 event, and 2 weeks before the website was going to come on, so many people were saying to me, can I trust these 2 new producers? Because it got to the point where it's like, can I trust them? Because they don't want to see me get hurt, and they don't want to see the whole friction play out, because they saw what I'm doing, and they saw how I was helping people. And everybody, put it this way, Evan, if you had 350 days there, I would have screened it and you would have liked it. You know, that's how good it was, you know, and I would have given everybody here a shine, you know, like, Buddy, you could have done promos there with wrestling or anything there. That basically, I did what no other film festival was doing. I listened to the filmmakers. I gave them what they wanted.
That's what Ed Titus could have used, Solomon.
What was
Solomon,
that?
That's what Ed Titus could have used, your film festival.
Exactly. I would have screened.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't ask at least 1 or 2 Beatles questions. So Steve, I know you're the world's biggest Beatles fan, and I know, you know, clearly they're the #1 band of all time, sales, influence, whatnot. What do you say to the people who aren't as enamored? That, oh, they're overrated.
Overrated. Yeah.
Isn't that a little ridiculous?
Yes, it is. I mean, I know it's all subjective, but those people who say they're overrated just haven't done their homework. You know, you don't have to like the Beatles, but how could you overrate the Beatles?
I mean, just the growth in those 10 or so years was unbelievable. Growth
And
is
the
artist.
you know,
Seven.
Mike, Mike, you jump in here too. The influence that they had was just mind-boggling. And if you follow the ripples, bands of today
British
still.
Invasion, for starters, they're right there in the Stones, the Who,
Yeah.
partially until they got in trouble tax-wise, the Kinks, all these incredible bands flooded the U.S., flooded the world, and that was on the coattails of the Beatles. And that was just the start. If you look at the progress and you look at that interview Paul McCartney did talking about, right before Sgt. Pepper's came out, all the press was saying, oh, they blew their wad on Revolver. This isn't going to be any good. They're taking all this time. And then look at what a piece of artwork.
I remember Paul McCartney saying he thought to himself, just you wait, knowing that Pepper was coming.
Good stuff is coming.
I showed this to Solomon, and I wanted to show you guys last Sunday, they had a screening in IMAX of the Beatles Get Back documentary, but their rooftop concert, the last time they played it in public.
Yeah.
And here's a very cool poster they gave out to everybody. I haven't even taken it out of the wrapper yet, but just to hear this stuff in IMAX. I mean, I watched the documentary on Disney, but oh my God, across the big screen, hearing George's guitar over there, Paul's bass over here, Ringo's drums behind you on the speakers. It's like, it's just, I don't know.
I cried when I went the first time of 3 to see Beatles Love in Vegas, and then was there when George Harrison's widow and son Danny and
you were there when they were all there?
That was a big deal and to hear the acoustics were so amazing in the theater in Vegas for that. You've not gone.
I hear they have speakers on the chairs or something.
Yeah, that too. But everything's going on, and then they mash up the music with songs that sort of sound alike, and one overlays the other. And I recommend that to anybody if they are not Beatles fans, and you'll be blown away. Like, they take little parts. It's just incredible. That
album is amazing, actually. I'm with you.
It's not the whole song. Isolate parts of "I Am the Walrus" or "A Day in the Life."
Yeah, I do have one other thing to show you if I have just a minute. Sure, Beatles related. Now this is an original from 1964 when Hard Day's Night came out.
Wow.
It's the Beatles, their little promo book that they gave out and later sold. But just for me to hold something like this, it just means so much that I can't explain, I can't rationalize why I have such a great fixation with the Beatles. I mean, I was alive when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I saw the name Ludwig on drums. That's my last name, and my brother and I were like, wow, it's and you can't explain unless you've lived through it, really. How
they did music's first music videos on the Ed Sullivan Show, if you recall, like when McCartney's solo album came out, McCartney in 1970. It was way before MTV or anything else.
What do you think of this? My mom, it's her birthday today. She's gone now. She bought me this when I was a kid. I got all 4 Beatles banks. Piggy banks. Yeah.
Can I have them?
You guys, can I say something quickly about
in your will? Leave it to me in your will.
Hey, Evan.
Yeah.
I brought one other thing on here to show you. I thought you'd appreciate this. I saw this on eBay, and I said, kind of cool. It's a George Clinton 45.
Oh, awesome.
Single of
good shape.
Free Alterations, a Nubian Nut.
There you go. There you go.
And I said, what I knew I was going to be on today. I said I got to show this to Evan.
P-Funk, yeah.
You guys, can I crowbar something in on a friend of Evan's, and maybe Steve knows him as well, or heard of him, and maybe Solomon, I hope, who did satisfy his bucket list and touch millions in a positive, non-Bill Cosby way. This is a guy I've known since like 68. Pepper Martin, who was a very successful wrestler, particularly on the West Coast. He
he was a legend.
For the AWA Japan tours. Then when he got hurt in my home base territory as a ringside photographer in LA, 65, 66, he broke his leg in the ring, and he was very close to Lee Marvin, who said, you should do some acting. And he referred his agent, who got Pepper work. And then Pepper started helping other wrestlers get into acting, but he was in all kinds of stuff. He played like the heel that beats up Clark Kent in Superman 2. I guess his character was known as the Bully. And then he became a successful screenwriter, director, producer, but he was also wrestling's very first color commentator. And I've asked some of the experts, Tom Burke, etc., was there anyone before him in like 66, 67? So when he got hurt, Dick Lane, who was a famous movie TV star, the Boston Blackie series, played a heel on an episode of Leave It to Beaver. Anyway, he was our LA wrestling TV commentator, total legend. He groomed Pepper to be, an announcer in Pepper's off time healing up. And Pepper became a color commentator for the first time early 67 with Dick Lane. Then he started doing it with Hank Renner for Roy Shire, San Francisco territory. And then for Harry Elliott in the Seattle. And also Don Owen, where sometimes Pepper was the sole commentator of TV wrestling while he was still wrestling. Anyway, he calls me Friday. He says, Mike, I've done my bucket list. And then he gets into this. I'm in hospice care now. He survived really severe eye cancer to both eyes, lost an eye about 12 years ago. But he was a heavy smoker and, et cetera. And he said he quit when the Surgeon General report came out in 64. So he has lung cancer. He's at home with 2 nurses, hospice care. And it really hit me, very, very hard. This guy has given so much to so many people, elevated, raised up other people, which I would term a success if you're looking at somebody's life. And he's still alive, but I told him, I'm going to call you daily if it's okay. You could hear him labor when he breathes, which really pained me to hear because this guy was so vital. He looked like Cary Grant. You look at pictures of him in the 60s wrestling Blassie or, a Killer Kowalski or something like that. He looked, and this was the guy who introduced and kept nagging Roy Shire to bring Pat Patterson in. He was doing nothing in Oregon. And he started recommending him at 65 and 66. He goes, you could pair him with your top heel, Ray Stevens as a team, feud him, do all this stuff. You'll make nothing but money. And Roy finally hired Pat Patterson as at Pepper Martin's insistence. So this guy had so much effect in getting people hired. And I called him and talked to him yesterday after he called Friday and told me about this. And I promised I'd call him today. And I called him this morning like at 10. And he normally picks up right away, and I've not heard from him since. He hasn't returned the call. I texted him, so I'm, pretty worried. But this is a great man, even though he's 85, still way too young to lose. And I mean, this guy was major in San Francisco, wrestling forever, and then all those other things I talked about. What a great that would be a successful human being. I just don't want to lose a successful human being like that. Such a fantastic guy. He emceed a bunch of cauliflower alleys when it first started, when it wasn't this big money generating thing that it's turned into now. Just a fantastic human. And you remember, Ev, the first guy to come to our St. Louis Sam Munchnick tribute convention in 91, the first guy to say, I'll trans myself in, it was Pepper Martin.
Yeah. And I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Syl Johnson, who great R&B artist. He was on High Records. Timing in life is everything. He was on High Records, HI out of Memphis, just as Al Green blew up. So he kind of got like shifted to the side. But one great album after another. Great live performer. I've seen him live. Syl Johnson passed, also 85, Mike, 85 years old. So, and very little attention on the internet today. I mean, Meatloaf passed and everybody was talking about it. Syl Johnson didn't sell a zillion records, but just a tremendous artist and R.I.P. Do you guys have anything you'd like to plug? We're getting a little late in the show. Solomon, Steve?
Well, and Titus, episode 4 is going to be on February 26th, and it will have the debut of The Fixer, voiced by Steve Ludwig.
Yeah. Solomon, if I may interrupt just for a second. Solomon is one of the main characters. There are three main characters, but the Fixer is the most important character. And you'll see him in episode 4. So go ahead, Solomon. I'm sorry.
He's kind of like if you watch the James Bond movies, Q, the character Q who makes the gadgets and gizmos for James Bond, or even if in Batman, Lucius Fox who makes his gadgets, or in 24, the character Chloe who always helps Kiefer Sutherland's Jack Bauer get out of some predicament. That's what the Fixer is. He's the one that always helps us get out of the situation. And I always love the banter between my character, Robert, and him, because my character is very, he's kind of intimidated about him because my character is supposed to be like intelligent. But Steve, how he presents the Fixer as he's the smartest guy in the room. He's smarter than me. And he might give me, let's say, a pen that turns into a sword. And I'm like, it ain't going to work. And then when it does, I'm like, whoa!
Smartest guy in the room. I was obviously typecast.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But I keep asking the creator. I'll make this fast. I know we're on the end here. I keep asking the creator, of the Delmar Burkett. Does the Fixer die? When does he die? I have to know. He refuses to tell me. So every episode I'm on, I'm waiting to see if I die.
Even me.
Evan, you're gonna love this.
That's kind of like this show too. That's kind of like this show.
Steve.
Bridget Everett's great show on HBO. Somebody Somewhere. Bridget Everett. Who knew that she was that kind of excellent actress? It's a really quirky, little fun, quiet show, and she does an amazing job on that. Totally at odds with the body burlesque show she does in New York clubs. You guys know her, I'm sure. Solomon must have heard of it. Bridget Everett. She's really something else.
Steve, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I don't mean to cut you off. My brother-in-law, Hong Fa Kim, a.k.a. Kim Hong Pa, is a noted South Korean actor. So all of a sudden, he has this big role on like this huge hit TV show in Korea, and the character's dying. So every week, my wife and I are praying that he doesn't die this episode because it's another payday,
Maybe they'll have his ghost on later.
Flashbacks.
Evan,
you need flashbacks.
Exactly.
Evan, being on Titus gets me first ever. I'm on IMDb now. Solomon told me this, so I checked it out. So I go to my IMDb page. What do I see? A picture of Evan Ginzburg, Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV, and that's my whole IMDb thing. So we're always going to be joined somehow,
There you go.
Evan.
Yeah.
So
We're
how
like a
can
big
fans-
wrestling arena in the sky one day together.
That's right.
Before we wrap up, how can fans get a hold of you guys and check out what you're doing? First, Steve, what have you got? Tell them about Planet Ludwig and everything.
Yeah, it's just real simple. There you go. PlanetLudwig.com has everything, my social media, everything on it. My 2 shows are Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture, Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig. And if I can mention the ntitusvdm.com website, that has all the episodes. And we're going to link this show to it. As soon as it appears on YouTube, it'll be on the link to watch it on YouTube will also be on ntitusvdm.com. Thanks,
And
buddy.
Solomon, let fans know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, Steve said it brilliantly with the Titus website, ntitusvdm.com, which has everything, has all the episodes, including the 2011 web series, the live action version, as well as the cast bios. Steve did an amazing job putting that whole thing together. That's why he is the Fixer. And if anybody wants to learn about me on the Internet Movie Database, you can type in my name, Solomon Chertok, Solomon, and you can see my whole bio right there. Or even go on the Titus website. You'll have my bio, which you click it, link goes right to the IMDb page right there. And I'm also on social media, on all the Instagram, Facebook, Twitters, which thanks to the pandemic, because I avoided it for years. You can ask Evan. I was never on social media for years, and it took a pandemic to get me on there because a lot of people were worried about me, and they all kept saying if I was on social media, they know I'd be okay. And by the way, Dr. Mike, Superman 2 is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just watched it back with my daughter. It still holds up.
I've seen, though, the actress that played Lois Lane on there. Did you ever?
Nicole Kidder.
Okay. Did you ever see her in Sisters, that movie with the Beatles? What a great film that is.
Palma, absolutely. I'll never forget. That was so disturbing. You know, I wish I could have met Margot. I didn't get to meet her. I've met, what's his name, who played Jimmy Olsen. I've met Jack O'Halloran, who was Non. I've met Sarah Douglas. I would have loved to have met Christopher Reeve. But my mother actually met Christopher Reeve at a Broadway show years ago. And I was so envious of my late mother for meeting Christopher Reeve, because to me, he's my Superman. You know,
yes, no, he's still the best one out of the whole group.
And Pepper Martin told me that Jean LaBelle used to date and was engaged, and she broke it off to Noel Nell, who played the original Lois Lane on the 50s TV show Superman.
George Reeves.
Yeah.
So that wraps up everything into a nice little bow. We got to get going, guys. So we'll see everybody next week, all the fans next week. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll have you guys on again in the future. Really appreciate you being on the show this week. Good night, everybody.